got talked into a flatbed trailer today that I don't need.
Put your mask on before you walk in here. How big was flatbed?
No, I'm still working from home.
How big was it?
Huh?
The flatbed? The big one?
Oh, it's 34 foot.
You know, normally I would. Normally I would. You know, so you put a mic right there.
Right between us,
Yep.
so they can hear everything you whisper to me.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm the one whispering to you.
Probably
12 feet.
7 foot. I don't know.
10 yards.
10 yards. Depends how long you need it. Hey, is there any way we could?
It's on the internet.
Ooh, yeah, I'm looking on Facebook so I can see what's there.
Okay, walk out here with me.
Both these are on, by the way. Just have her.
Are you gonna take that cap off?
I haven't been to the hairdresser in a while. I'll take it off.
Yeah, I took my grandpa's old golf cart to get new batteries and stuff today.
Yeah,
Right there off of 37.
yeah, the trailer place.
Yeah, and the guy's like, man, I know you have trailers. You want another one? I said, no. He said, well, the owner of the Garage Burgers in Oklahoma City has this trailer out here that he's trying to get rid of. And so it's at my house now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, did you? I laid some sod yesterday.
I'm sorry? No. You taking pictures?
Man, quit walking behind me, man.
Huh?
Quit walking behind me.
Dude, I'll give you a big hug.
You can give me a hug. I don't care.
I'll kiss you right on your cheek. I've always wanted to. I kissed Ryan's baby.
And then he got the coronavirus. He's all over the news now.
What'd you claim to think? I gave Brian's baby with coronavirus.
I'd sue the crap out of you.
For what?
I don't know. Breaking my 6 foot.
Hey Ryan, do you like this shirt? I've got another one.
I don't have one.
You want one?
Mhm.
I got a black one too.
I've got
Something
one.
like this.
You know, I've got one just like that.
We can be Twinkies. 3 ways.
What?
We could all wear our shirts together and
I don't have one.
not yet.
Not yet. You got one, Andrew?
I don't. You notice I wouldn't offer one either.
I don't have another one. I'll give you a different one though.
Do what? Thank you. Hey, she's healthy as she can be, thank the Lord, so we're good with that.
Those beggars.
Couldn't be more hot in here, could it?
Maybe a little bit.
Y'all do realize that the corona, it lives in the heat, so you get, I'm just teasing. I was trying to throw a reverse psychology there, but you caught it.
You know, he made an official motion to lower the AC. Oh, you've been so proud. Ryan made, what, 2 or 3 motions last week.
He did.
Yeah.
And did an amazing
He didn't have
job.
a choice, did he?
No, absolutely not. We 100% for us.
No choice.
He did a good job.
He did a great job.
He's really
Thank you.
grown up right before our eyes.
Literally.
Maturing.
It makes me
Yeah.
up though when people still find out that Ryan's on the board and they're like, how old is he?
You know Ryan's gamer?
Are you serious right now? He's like, how do you know college? You really ask me how old Ryan is? Oh my God.
Hey, I still gotta think about it too, you know? I still look at all of them as kids and I'm like, He ain't a kid no more. He's a full-grown man now.
Grown man.
Yeah.
Wrong man.
Grown man. Got some of that man stuff on his face.
I had a
the cat,
mustache.
The cat can't lick that off no
And I
more,
had to
can he?
shave it tonight for this.
Why'd you have to shave it?
For pictures, man.
You didn't want the
I did not want to be in a yearbook with.
mustache?
Yeah. I haven't been seeing anybody. I've been working from home, so I shaved. I had this long, and then I shaved it and left my mustache, and I was gonna wear it all for the next week or two at the lake. And I had to shave, yeah, for pictures.
I can be ugly all the time, so you can be ugly in a picture every once in a while too.
Are you got the cameras rolling? Are we live already?
They can hear us talk.
So where are we speaking? Oh my God.
Mm.
Hello from the.
Way to go, David.
You're lying.
No, I swear.
I was just talking about mustache.
Just look at, see that little thing bouncing right there?
Yeah.
That's this mic's on.
But you're live.
Yeah, they can click the link and go now.
Oh my.
Why didn't you tell us?
I did. I walked out
He
and said
said
this is on.
10 till, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot he was gonna be.
Can we not
on
tell
there.
Kent? See if we can get him to do something goofy.
Because I was out there listening on my phone.
You were laughing.
No, I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying.
Bridgewood Public School.
Because I was trying to get it to cast to that TV in case people showed up, they could watch out there, because we only got 3 more spots in here that we can have.
Think somebody would show up.
No, I don't, but when I was talking about how we were doing it, they go, we're still having a live board meeting, I'm like, yeah, do y'all stream? Like, no,
Says the video's unavailable.
did you have to go,
I'm on YouTube.
you have to go to the Facebook page and click that link.
I did.
Mr. Meyer?
Facebook page.
Yours work.
I'm on YouTube.
You have to go to the Facebook page and click that link.
I did. I am. Here we are. Woohoo.
I'm on YouTube. You have to go to the Facebook page and click.
I'm doing it the same way I always have.
Like on the Facebook page?
You have to click on the YouTube link.
There's about a 20-second delay, so you go to Facebook. Well, I'm on the Bridgewood Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer.
You're welcome.
Gonna be on official tonight.
Did that work?
Somebody's texting me.
No.
Did that work? Yeah, I mean, but because I'm the only one doing it, I don't have a choice but to start it. Because I'm the only one doing it.
Funny watching the delay,
It is.
delayed reaction. What? I got thoughts on it.
Gloves are touching everything. Your gloves touching everything.
Funny watching delayed reaction.
Germ extra gloves.
It shows me getting. That's
Germ extra gloves.
I'm shutting it off. I am listening. Call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Call roll, please. Mr. Spangler?
Present.
Mr. Dawkins?
Here.
Mr. Vincent?
Present.
Mr. Stack?
Present.
Ms. Ford? Here. Consider and vote on the approval of the minutes for the March 12th, 2020 regular meeting.
Any questions on the minutes?
Make a motion to approve minutes for the March 12th, 2020 regular board meeting.
Second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Stagg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Consider and vote on approval of the minutes for the March 20th, 2020 special meeting.
Any questions?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 20th, 2020 special board meeting.
Second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Stagg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. We have no public comments.
No, ma'am.
Is there any board member comments? None? Administrators' comments?
Nope, I'll save mine till the discussion on 5B.
Okay. Discussion item, the district finance report.
All right, I'm getting ready to pop up on your screen. The cash flow page, it's the one we look at every month. So there's March and what the cash flow is at the end of March in the green box, if you can see that on your screen. Something we'll talk about a little bit in the next item is what the budget outlook is for next year. This is about $723,000 down from where it was last year at the end of March. But April and May are usually decent revenue months, so we'll see if that lessens. A lot of that is known expenses that we talked about at the beginning of the year. But with the vanishing oil and gas economy on top of the state shutting down for the virus, it's going to be a rough next couple of years, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the next item. The other two funds, the building fund and child nutrition fund, they're doing fine. We're going to be able to manage those because I mean we're not having normal school, so we're having a lot less expenses throughout the month other than salaries. So that'll be a plus. Not that it is a plus, but financially it will help. One thing today on that, this last month, the April gross production check or payment came in today, and it was $4,000 above what it was this time last year, so that's a plus. You probably just lost, if you were looking at my screen, you probably just lost it. I clicked the wrong button. So let me get back to where we're at. Okay. So if you, I'm going to talk more about the budget on the next item. So unless y'all have questions specifically about the general fund right now, we'll go on to the next item.
Okay, the district COVID-19 responses.
So in this, I've got several different things we're going to talk about, and I'm going to open up. Mrs. Ford and Mr. Sugg have already seen this because we had POE council just before the board meeting, and I kind of went over it. So if you're following me, I've got my comments and discussion up on your screen. First thing, I want to start off with a positive. I want to brag on our child nutrition staff. These last 3 weeks, they've done a great job. Every day, they're handing whoever comes through the line a breakfast item and a lunch item. And remember, they're limited because they can't have full access to their kitchen because of the number of people that have to be involved. But we had to expand to prepare in 3 different kitchens because we had so many kids to go through. But they have served, as of today, over 11,300 meals in the last 3 weeks. And they have done a great job. I can't brag on them enough during this time. They're coming to work every day, minus Fridays, because on Thursday we hand out for Thursday and Friday. So they're not coming in on Friday, but they've done a great job. I can't brag on them enough. Crystal and her staff have done very well. Next thing, we started distance learning, and it's had different varieties. Some people are doing it we've handed out 75 Chromebooks to people that didn't have a device at home. We're still working on getting internet access for some that don't have internet access at home. We're waiting on our hotspots to come in. We've purchased through RSA funds, which is Reading Sufficiency Act. They gave us a whole bunch of waivers for those, so we can use those specifically for distance learning. We're going to purchase 60 for the month that we have left to help people out with connectivity, which is going to cost us $5,000-$6,000 now for the month for the 60. And we chose 60 because through the phone calls that the teachers made the last 2 weeks, we had 51 families identify that they didn't have internet access at home, or say that they would like the digital option. So some families just picked the paper packets because we're doing paper packets as well, and they drove through the first part of this week, picked up their work for 2 weeks, they take it home, and the instructions, from what I understand, is they'll take a picture of it and email it back to us so they don't have to bring it back up here. Then on the 20th, they'll pick up the last 3 weeks worth of work paper-wise. Like at the high school here, I think we had 12 to 15 kids. That's all that picked up paper packets. We had more. The younger kids had more than that. But so that's an option for them. But we did purchase 59, because that's all we could get, 59 more Chromebooks with that same amount of money to help out and make sure, because ultimately we're going to have some that don't survive this passing in and passing out that we'll need to replace. Some other things that are going on, like in our special ed department, we have some of the therapy that we give kids, whether it's physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. Some of those are happening teleconference, so they're actually seeing their therapist over Zoom or Google Hangout, and then some of them have just been given exercises depending on their individual need. But that department has stepped up, and because that is a big liability as far as we were not, and I'm not saying we should have, we didn't have any room to wiggle with this. We still have to provide the services we have to provide those kids because they need them. So we had to figure out a way, that department had to figure out a way to make that happen in the way we're in. So they've done a really good job as well. And I would just say, and we were talking about this on the POE conference call a while ago, I haven't heard a lot of comments that haven't been positive. Everything's been positive. That people have contacted me and talked to me that how well the teachers have put into the distance learning, and especially being thrown into it in a matter of 7 days to prepare. I mean, the distance learning that goes on in college, those professors have semesters and years to prepare and change their courses. We had 7 days to get it going, and I think they've worked hard. They've been they're meeting weekly with the principal and going over things and trying to tweak things. And I'm going off my kids in middle school. They had a very specific schedule sent out by the grade levels of what they're going to do on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I think the teachers have done a really good job with that. Not to say it's perfect, because we know it's not, but to be thrown into it, they've done a really good job, and they've worked really hard at it. So we're going to have another device handout next week. We're trying to wait till the hotspots come in because they haven't come in. We're trying to wait till they come in. I'm hoping to get them Monday or Tuesday and then hand those out at the end of next week to get everybody up and going that has requested that. And we had some guidelines on requests. We asked that if you had a device in the home and had Wi-Fi, not to request one. We're just trying to make contact and get to the people that don't have it. And that's what part of the teacher phone call was. So again, right now we're still doing minimal staffing. Not every custodian's coming to work during the week. Not every maintenance guy's coming to work every day right now. We're probably going to keep those staffing, and not all of my office is coming to work every day. We're probably going to keep those levels through the end of April and see if the CDC drafts any new guidance. We've heard that they may have a change by the end of April of what they recommend if the curve still flattens, but we'll see. I mean, we heard this week that the peak in Oklahoma is still sometime in mid-May, and then I was watching the news this afternoon before I come up here down in my office, and they said that there could be a wave 2 and a wave 3. So I finally received the first correspondence, and I said this earlier in the POE, that you need to start thinking the what ifs we don't start school regular next year. How are you going to handle that? So that is in the radar. Now, they're not saying that's going to happen, but they say you need to at least think about it. You can't automatically assume school's going to start as normal next year. So we'll just see what they mean by that as we get closer to the summer. I don't think they'll say anything about that until June or July. But they definitely have brought it up on several occasions for it to be on the school district's radar. So therefore, it needs to be on our radar if we need to make adjustments or change what we're doing, change the platform we're using, or do something different. I mentioned at one point about the storm shelter. We did get the guidance back from the state that storm shelters can be opened, but to take the recommended precaution if you can. So at the door of our storm shelter, which I'll send the letter out Monday, putting out the guidelines, there'll be a table like you saw coming in here this evening. Germ-X gloves. The only thing we don't have enough to provide is masks because we have no idea how many people would come. But in the letter, I would have requested them to bring their own masks and that they would social distance as a family. So like family A would stay in a clump together, and then you would have your distance to family B, because chances are if they're infected, which I hope they're not, but if they were to be, they've already infected each other. So they can stay in a close proximity, and then we just space them out in the storm shelter that we're going to use. So that guidance will go out. I've already sent it off to the sheriff because that is the department that will be opening it since school is not in session. They will have someone come to the district and open it. So we're not necessarily, we have a backup district person that will come open it as well if they can't, but since it's an emergency situation, they're in charge when those sirens go off. So, any questions on those things? Any thoughts? Anything you've heard that you would like to share on the distance learning or anything like that? I put it on a discussion item so we could talk back and forth if y'all had things y'all wanted to mention. Anything on that? All right. The next thing I've got on my list, there's the CARES Act, which is the stimulus package that the government the president signed into law a couple weeks ago. Education in Oklahoma should get 2 allotments of money. One of it is going to be through the federal Title I formula, which we've been told at this point it's going to be 84% of our regular Title I allotment. Our Title I allotment for this school year was $206,000. 84% of that is just over $173,000. So that would be supplemental to the allotment we get. So we would get next year's allotment, whatever it is, and then we would get 84% of that, unless this money comes in prior to next year. If it comes in the next couple of weeks, like it's supposed to, it'll be 84% of this year's allotment. And they've sent out, I've seen some, they haven't sent out official guidance, but I've seen some unofficial guidance that gives us a lot of flexibility where we can pretty much spend the money how we want to support our school. It's not, because Title I's got to be spent on specific things. We have to write into a plan how we're going to spend the money this year. We usually use it in salaries for our our extra reading teachers and math teachers at the intermediate and early childhood. This one will not have those kind of constraints. We'll still have to file forms, but there's a whole lot more things that we can use it for. That money will be from what we understand, remember the rules can change, that money will be in excess of what we get next year. Now, the governor has also given money, about $13.5 billion for K-12 education in Oklahoma through the same act. And we've been told at this point that's going to be about $300 to $400 per student or per weighted student. And weighted students are, we've talked about, and I don't know that everybody's been in on this conversation because the board's changed, but we have a weighted student count because different age students have different weights. Like early childhood kids, you get to take they're one FTE, but they're like 1.1. So they get 1.1 of whatever the money allotment is. And middle school's all one. Seniors get a little bit, or weighted a little bit heavier. Your gifted and talented has a weight. So if they're gifted and talented student, they get a little bit extra weight. Special ed has a weight. Bilingual has a weight. So it's not one for one. So our weighted ADM's like 2549, where we only have 1,700 actual people in our school. So our weighted ADM's and if you take our weighted ADM times the 300, that comes out to about $770,000. But that may not necessarily be on top of what we're supposed to get next year. That money may be put in to what we're supposed to get so the state can take money and spread it out so they can minimize budget cuts. So the term is supplant. So that money may be supplanted into the education budget where it's not on top of, it's included in. So we may not see extra money out of that lump. We don't know yet. Nobody said that yet. But the way it's written, it allows for that to happen. It just depends on what happens at the state level. So I'm not counting on that $770,000 as extra money. And we can't count on that until we hear the rules that it's coming to us at. So that's money that is extra, in a sense, that's not necessarily coming from the state. That's specifically coming from the stimulus package for the schools, but we don't know. We're pretty sure on A, how that's coming. B, we don't know if that's, I doubt, I'm not going to say we, I doubt that comes as in extra money. It's going to be used to make up our next year's budget. To hold us flat for next year so we don't take a budget cut. We still could take a budget cut, but we just don't know. We haven't got the money, the state hadn't got the money, so none of that's been put in the bank yet. If you look at the budget outlook, as of March, like I said, we're down $723,000. That gap should lessen as we do finish April, finish May, and finish June. I don't have I can't put an exact number on that because part of March we were still running school as regular. We only had 1 week of March that we had or 2 counting spring break that we had no expenses. So we'll see what April and May do. So that's, and I gave you the range back in September, anywhere from 400,000 to 900,000. Worst case to best case scenario, so I'm about right in the middle. So on there is some things that we need to think about moving forward. Possibly for this next budget year, but if it's not this next budget year, it'll probably be definite unless oil and gas makes a 180 in the next 3 or 4 months, which is probably not going to happen. And the economy, probably not going to happen. It may get better, but it's going to get worse before it gets better because, like for us, oil and gas, the money that we got, that I talked about earlier, that we got in April, that was actually the money that came in 6 or 9 months ago. It's just now getting to us. So we still haven't seen the oil and gas downturn in our collections. That's still coming because we're probably after this month, we're probably going to hit this year's projection of oil and gas. We won't hit. I hadn't even looked yet to see what next year's projection is going to be. Maybe 50%. Depends on what's pumping. Nobody knows. Oil being at $20 a barrel for an extended period of time, it might be good for our pocketbook as a person. It's not good for the state's economy. So, we won't know those effects until the Board of Equalization meets in June to give next year's budget. How they're going to project next year's budget. So I've already talked to the principals about a hiring freeze. We're making one more necessary hire tonight, and then after that, if people leave, we're not going to hire them back at this point. And it doesn't really matter what the position is. We'll have to fill it and run it from within. And Not necessarily because of next year, but I don't want to have to hire somebody knowing I'm going to let them go the next year. I just don't think that's right. So another thing, I'm looking at D right now, if we don't start school in August, there's task-specific stipends we give. If that task is not happening, do we give that stipend? Because that'll be something that will have to be considered in the budget, because that's close to $250,000 paying for things that we don't have going on. I mean, that's something that'll be a hard decision we have to make. And the reason I'm telling you now is so you have time to think about these things, and when I prepare the agenda, I can say, okay, remember we talked about this back in April. We need to start drawing hard numbers, in which I'll give you that stuff, but these are things that you need to, and people will, those of you that, Mr. Dawkins, you've been on the board a while, and when we had the last bad time, I think were you on the board the last time we had the last bad turn? I think it may have just been you. The things I've got listed here was not on the radar. We didn't even consider that. But one, we didn't have a staff the size we do now. And two, this is how bad we are being told it could be. So,
When do you have to make that decision by?
well, we'll do next year's budget. I'll start working on it in July. We usually don't approve it until September, but I'm probably going to have it before then. I may try to have it at that June 30th board meeting, at least a projected budget, to show you where I think we're going to be. Because we can't make that decision in August or September. We got to make that decision in June to prepare for the next, so we can talk to people and that kind of stuff. Now, still, we're not cutting positions this year. We're not going to cut them. But we're not going to hire any that leave at this point. So because I know there may be teachers watching, they're going to get freaked out. We're not going to cut. We talked about that last month. We're not going to cut positions this year. But how those positions are next year, it may not be the same. They may not be getting all the obligations that we had to, because we may not have those obligations. Now, if those activities and things happen, we're going to pay them. I mean, that's not the point. It's we got to make the decision. If those activities don't happen, do we pay them? I don't know that we can, but that decision has to be made. Another thing is the second sheriff. I mean, that's $35,000, $40,000. I mean, that's a salary for somebody else. So those are things that we'll have to talk about and have conversations and at the appropriate time. We're not there yet because we still got 3 months. I'll know more. I'll know a lot more in May than I do right now. I'll know more in June, because if you remember, we got 2 meetings in June. That's probably where we'll have the discussion with numbers at the first meeting, and then make the decision at the second meeting to start to start the year. And I mean, it's this. The sky is not falling now, but the state and everybody is telling us to prepare. That's why we're talking about it now, because I don't want to wait till June and say, oh, hey, by the way, guys, we're not going to have any money next year. This is what I think we ought to do. That's not fair to anybody. So that's why it's coming up now, because we're having these talks on a weekly basis with the state. Since we've started all these conferences, we're having a weekly conference with the state superintendent. So that's why this is all, and it's, when things are going good, they don't have these kind of talks. They don't even say anything to you. That's good, don't worry about it. But when it's not, because they're worried too. And the reason for that is the funding formula, which the formula's right. But as oil and gas went up in the state, schools came off the funding formula because of high oil and gas revenue for their district. We only got $500,000 from the top of the funding formula, because you got the top, you got the transportation, and then you got the bottom. We only got $500,000 off the top, and that's where your chargeables are, which we've had that conversation before about what's a chargeable. But when that revenue starts going down, the state requirement starts going up that they have to fulfill, but that's happening for everybody, not just us. So there's more hands going back in that pot, making that same amount of money, spreading it out. So less people are getting, even though the state may give the schools, we're still giving you $2 billion, but there's more schools getting part of that $2 billion, so everybody's getting less. So it's kind of like when I told my kids, you got $50 to spend here, and I only had 2 daughters, they got a lot more than they get now when I got 4 kids. They don't think it's fair, but it's just, I'm still only giving you $50. So just things that we got to think about and talk about. Things that we got to talk about this year and think about. Prom has been canceled, or not canceled, postponed indefinitely. Is that assuming that they lift the ban of 250, or right now it's 10 people. It was 50 people. It was before that was 250 people. Assuming we go back to the 250 people at some point, is that something we want to try to do over the summer? It won't happen before May.
Well, if they say there's 2 or 3 waves, and the second and third wave is going to be because of opening it up and getting big groups of people together.
Right.
I hate it as much as anybody. The prom, there may not be a prom, but we have to think about the health of our kids before we think about the memories that they are missing out on.
Right. I don't, and I'm,
Prom actually put on, considered by the school?
no,
No.
I don't think so.
it's put on by the Booster Club, but,
I was going to say, I don't know that we actually control that one way or the other.
well, yeah, we can.
It's still a school.
I mean, they could get fined.
They still have to report that.
Even though they're a booster club, they are still sanctioned by the school. They still have to operate by our rules. So can they have?
It was more of a question.
Yeah. So I don't know that they can have one, because they would still have to get. Now if Jim and Jan Smith went and rented out a space and said, "You guys come," that's different than the class of 2020. Actually, no, I think the prom's put on by our class, because it's put on by us,
The
junior class.
Put it on.
So, but
I would say that just have to put that on the back burner for now. A lot of things can change between now and then.
that's true. But these are questions I'm getting, and I've given them the answer. It's postponed indefinitely at this point, because we can't. It's not within our power to make a decision because of the limits put on.
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying.
CD. Now, the one thing we need to talk about, graduation, because we're in the same boat. Right now, we're not having a traditional graduation. So there's a couple options. Do we want to have a virtual graduation? Do we want to have a drive-through graduation? Because some schools are doing that. Or do we want to try to hold out for a traditional graduation? All I've told the public is we're going to try to do something. I would like to hold out for a traditional graduation, but at what point do you got to say that's not in the cards?
Well, if they're saying that really the worst of it's supposed to be coming in mid-May, so we don't know.
Well, we're not going to hit our.
Right, we're not.
The
gonna
May
hit 15th
18th or the May 15th is out of question.
But even at that point, if we can even try to say we're going to shoot for June.
Because I know one school has already scheduled their next graduation on July 30th. I don't know how they can do that, but they have.
Should we take a poll on that?
We
Could.
could.
The cert graduation, I think
We could.
But also, even if we decide to go ahead and try to do traditional, the church may not allow us to do it there. And the gym, we're going to be limited to probably parents only.
Right.
I like the idea of Paul the senior class.
Okay.
Because if they decide that they want to do virtual or drive-through, well, then that's something that we can make happen fairly quickly.
Right.
Um,
And we could make that happen on regular time.
Right.
Because they are having their cap and gown pickup this week.
So if they want to hold out for traditional, well, then we, I think, should find a date to aim for and start doing some preliminary planning similar to.
But I mean, you know,
Again, but.
the only thing,
As in, you realize that there's a decent chance that it's not gonna happen.
the only thing that, more than anything, I want to have a traditional graduation because they've earned it.
Absolutely.
I think everybody sitting in here would agree with that. I think the parents at home,
We can always do the virtual, and we can always do the drive-through.
but I would hate to aim for a date. Let's just say August 10th or August 5th because the school starts on the 10th. Let's say August 5th before college starts, before we start back, and then we get to August 5th and we can't. And then they're gone to college, we're starting school, then they've got nothing for right now. I mean, that's my only reservation on. I mean, we'll definitely poll them because this is their graduation.
And you lay that out, that if we decide to hold out for traditional, you might end up with nothing. Because if you get to October or you get to December, I think at that point, you can't do it any longer.
There's other ways that we can honor the seniors. Like I'm thinking of a way right now to still have the senior circle this year, so that they can and have it on campus. But it would be an alternate of a senior circle, which I think that, I don't know, most seniors seem to like that. But
Facilities that we normally ran, what's the seating capacity of those?
It's like 3,000, isn't it?
the church that we do graduation is about 3,000.
And how much of that do we actually use? Do we use
No,
all of
we usually have about 2,200,
What's the gym hall?
1,300 in seats. That's
it?
that.
So, worst case scenario, we could do it in our gym and just limit your guests.
Yeah, I mean we could. Yeah, that's
Well,
definitely.
we're gonna have, how many seaters we have, 100?
Well, about 89
No,
this
we
year.
only have, yeah, 89.
I think if you remember right, was it 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we actually set the gym up for graduation because of the tornado issues. And I think we had 1,800 seats because we had rented folding seats and put on the floor as well.
Yeah.
I think we had 1,800.
And it still have room.
No, we were full.
Yeah, I mean, you still have room to move around.
You could do standing room only after that, but, or you could stream it into,
The other gym.
or you could stream it into the middle school cafeteria, whatever, like we're doing tonight. I mean, you could do the same type of scenario. You could put it on, stream it on Facebook and whatever.
Yeah, at that point, you put online.
And the overflow could go sit in the middle school
But
cafeteria.
that's only if they lift the band. Of
That's only if they lift the band. I mean,
Of
so there's a lot of
more than
ifs,
10
but
people.
I don't want to be, because this is important and graduation is important, I don't want to make that decision last second and be looked at as, why'd y'all wait so long to talk about it? Because I know we talked about it back in March at the special board meeting when we were doing all that stuff. I just,
Well, realistically, how long would it take to get together a drive-through or a virtual?
it wouldn't take very long.
I mean, there's no sense in hurrying on it, that's the point.
Because the only thing on the virtual part would take a while because we would have to track down the senior pictures. Because on a virtual, like myself, Mr. Billington, and you guys would be here, but it would be with a picture of the student. The student actually would,
Traditional anyway, wouldn't we?
huh?
We would do it on traditional
And
graduation. Pictures.
Yes, with that's the slideshow we would.
so he's saying as a couple of weeks it could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have to get the parents to send us
No immediate hurry.
their baby picture and their cap and gown picture. Now, the drive-through, I mean, that's easy to announce and say we're going to have it at this time and just find a date for us.
How would the drive-through work? I guess I'm not.
I know.
They decorate their cars and come through driving their cars, their parents in their cars with them in their cap and gown, and we hand them the diploma through the window, and then,
Wow.
I mean, their schools that is an option for A lot of schools are taking that option so they can still,
Be the most unique graduation in the century.
so they can still physically hand the kid the cover. They get to see they get to see every senior, and they get to hand the kid the cover.
Tell them congratulations.
Tell them congratulations.
Yep.
I mean, so,
We could still have a photographer really sit there and take a picture still, I guess.
yeah. But that's how it would be like the curbside pickup of your food when you go out and eat.
So, call me naive, but how does the virtual work?
The virtual is, we're basically streaming it on a computer and people watch it from home, like Mr.
All the
Bill.
seniors would still be here?
Nope.
No.
What is senior?
There wouldn't be Mr. Billington, everything we do would be pre-recorded as far as Mr. Billington doing his little charge to the seniors and any awards that we'd have to give out, all that would be pre-recorded. But like if we get, like, last year I gave the perfect attendance award because she had this perfect attendance from kindergarten through 12th grade. I would be recorded giving that award, but she wouldn't be there. They would be watching it on, like what we did in POE, the Google Hangout, but that would only be the seniors because it only holds 200 people.
I think I'd rather do the drive-through, if I was a senior.
But I know, but a lot of school, like, I know one that I think they're doing, Shawnee, I think is doing the virtual. UConn's doing the virtual because they got, 700, 800, 900 seniors.
I've just seen
That would be a long drive.
options. People are having 10 people at a time walk across the stage.
But that's hard when you're limited to 10. No, I mean, that means you're doing,
Time slot to graduate.
you'd have to do one at a
Even
time.
then, it still defeats the purpose of them getting together.
But the issue on that is when we've been given guidance, and that's why we've struggled getting teachers in and out of here, getting stuff to prepare with, is 25 people coming in one at a time right after each other is the same thing as 25 people being here at one time. In the guidance we've been given from the State Department. So that I take that as don't have a 1-by-1 graduation, because if there's Billington, me, and you 5, that's 7. So you got the kid and 2 parents, and some kids got more than 2 parents.
One board member.
Make that known.
I mean, you can. There's options, but it's still, you can't. I mean, my point was having them come in enter one end of the gym, walk through, and it all being at one time. That's still having 89 people coming through. That's the same as having 89 people in gathering in the guidance that the schools have been given.
It's, if they're not together.
Right. I mean, what purpose does that?
And I guess if you get it on, there is the whole point of it.
Yeah. And I think, my personal opinion is if we can't do a traditional, then a drive-through is probably our most
But
realistic option.
we will still poll
Yeah, I
the
think that's-
seniors.
But I do think we need, and I don't know how we make that decision, but there's a date that at some point it becomes too late.
Mhm.
At some point, we miss the opportunity. When
And that's
2 months into the next school year and these kids are in college, or, they've moved to another state, or any number of things.
Good.
When we have the ability to get that number of people together,
because
at a certain point, it's too late.
there are some, we have graduates, once they graduate, they don't come back on this
Right.
campus
You know,
because of just a life cert,
the best opportunity
Military?
to get-
military.
Yeah, to honor everybody in one event,
Because that is the one thing I don't want to happen, that we hang on for one little thing
and we end up with.
and those seniors, not we, them, the
Right.
seniors end up with nothing,
Yeah.
because would not be right. So, and because, I mean, graduation is one of my favorite things as superintendent. I think that's y'all's favorite duty as a board member is graduation.
Yeah, it is.
But,
It
but,
would have been your first one?
but I don't want to hold out, being stubborn, holding out for a traditional graduation because that's what I want, and then them get nothing, because that would be tragic.
So how do you do a poll?
We can do it on the internet, and just each senior has a Bridge Creek email address, and I can put out a survey that only Bridge Creek email addresses answer through our webpage. And I could do one on Facebook, but then that would open it up for everybody, and not all Facebook is for old people now, apparently. That's what my kids tell me.
You put it on TikTok.
I could do a
Yeah,
TikTok with it, yeah, but
Let's do a TikTok video.
so I could do it on the webpage. That's not that hard. As long as we could get all the seniors to log in and vote.
It's important to them.
It would be.
Don't give us your opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Let me figure out how to get out of here if we're still watching. Okay. All right.
Before you move forward.
Yes, sir.
To clarify, we kind of quickly moved from prom to graduation, but prom is staying in a current postponed indefinitely status until we can, another month or so, to see if there's going to be any
'Cause
light at the end of the tunnel.
If I had a choice, and I think most seniors would agree, they would rather have their graduation than a prom.
Yeah.
So I don't, that's, and I feel sorry for the girls that have already bought their dress. I know there's a lot, but I don't see prom being doable at this point. And I know the venue that we had rented said they want us to not take our deposit back and push it back because they've lost all their weddings too. But for us, I don't know that prom is going to be doable. Even if the ban is lifted June 15th, it's not going to be at some point. But in my opinion, they're going to keep a lot of restrictions on us, especially school-wise, because that's where kids gather the most in big crowds is at school. I would rather put my time and effort into a graduation than prom.
Probably agree.
And just to give you an idea why I made that last statement about the restriction, when we went on spring break, when this all started happening, State Superintendent Hoffmeister said, before she canceled school, when we come back, you need to try to figure out how to only eat in your cafeterias with 100 kids at a time. Doable for us, yes. Doable for Moore, Norman, Broken Arrow, not doable for them. So that they were going to go to that lengths before they decided to close school down on the 100. The State Board of Education, in my opinion, was going to mandate no more than 100 kids eat at a time. We could make that happen because 100 kids a class. We would just have, high school, we would have 4 lunches, or we'd have to have 5 because some classes are bigger than 100. You'd start eating at 10:30 and you'd get over at 2. But, so that's how adamant, and I'm not dogging them, or I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying that's how adamant they would be on restrictions coming back to school if they keep restrictions in place. That's at what lengths they would have restrictions for schools. And like I said, I'm not meaning that as negative. I'm just saying that's a very well possibility, because even Dr. Fauci, the guy from Washington, he said yesterday that kids will go back to school this fall, but it will not be business as usual. So I don't know what that means, but we'll see. Any other thoughts before we move on? Any other thoughts on any of that document that I'd put up on your screen? But overall, I want to end on a positive. I'm very pleased and happy with our staff and the way they went into this distance learning as we just got to do it. And we all know, that's why, when I talk to the parents on Facebook, be flexible. We were thrown into this. But I think they did very good in a short amount of time. Very proud of the staff and the administration on how they just took it and they got it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right.
Okay, number 6, consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of routine nature normally approved at the board meeting will be approved by one vote unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items.
So all that's on the consent agenda to this month is just the financial stuff. There's no other items on there.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, line items 6A1 through 6A10.
Second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Items for consideration. Consider and vote to approve the resolution on the calendar change and emergency leave.
Okay, because we submitted our calendar to this, our school calendar to the state, and we're changing our end date of school to May 8th, which we were given a range of when to change it to. May 8th, the board has to change that because the board is the one that approves the calendar. Also, we talked about emergency leave. I'm gonna pull this up. We did a 10-day emergency leave policy because we were expecting a 2-week closure. The governor did pass the executive order about continuing your contracts with your support people to get them paid through this closure. But that did not necessarily allow for us being able to give emergency leave when we're not calling them in. That basically said, your support people can be essential, pay them, work them and pay them necessarily. But we're not wanting our support people here, all of them right now. We're still wanting to have a minimal staff, so we need to, there's 2 parts of this resolution, and I'll go through the 2 parts, and that one is to change the school calendar date, and one is to give me the authority to give administration leave as needed and not a specific amount. And that's for, and this was written by the OSSBA, so this is something they put out for all schools to adopt. If you look at the last paragraph, therefore it be resolved that despite the change to the last day of school classes for students, the Bridge Creek Public School Board of Education directs Superintendent of Bridge Creek Public Schools to grant any support staff, teachers, administrators, professional, technical employees paid administrative leave necessary to allow such employees to be paid throughout the duration of their original contract. 2 paragraphs above that is where it changes the date from May 21st to May 8th. Because May 21st was the official end date, even though seniors completed their requirements a week earlier. Any questions on that?
Make a motion to approve resolution on calendar change and emergency leave.
No, I second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Consider and vote to approve the resolution granting emergency powers to the superintendent.
So this is, and I can give you an example on this. This is something the OSSBA is recommending. This was pulled off their website to give you an example of things that that would need to be changed. One of the board is always, the policy on grading was 2 grades a week from a teacher. Well, I have waived that unofficially for this distance learning, not requiring 2 grades a week because of different types of activities going on. Technically, you guys are the only ones that can approve that. So what this would do is allow me to make that decision without having to reconfirm it at a board meeting. And it be legal, because technically somebody could have called us on it because it hadn't been approved yet other than by me. I just told the teachers, no, we're going to not do that right now. And the reason this is being pushed by the OSSBA, and it's on their website, is any decision I make, it will automatically become board approved under these, and I think there's a date. I think it's as long as As long as there's an emergency status in the state, I think is what it said.
Based on the direction of the governor's order.
Right. So that nobody can come back and say, y'all didn't approve that. And it catches us all by surprise. I mean, this is not a thing to where anybody can go rogue.
So in the
because
distance learning, they are getting graded?
they, under a special grade code. That's why I
Under a
waived,
special grade
that- that's why I waived the 2 grades per week. Yes, it is tracked differently, but
Track differently, okay.
yes. Any questions? Any concerns? Because I figured this would bring up concerns. I mean, I would have concerns, but this is something just being recommended, so I don't get caught, or you guys don't get caught in a decision made.
I'd say,
And the biggest thing is,
Most of the thing, when it's big, I usually call you guys anyway.
well, everything in here says it's directly related to the COVID-19 situation.
So I can't change anything except for this year directed with this
emergency situation.
emergency situation.
And as soon as the emergency situation is over.
It would also last if the governor keeps extending his executive order into next school year, then it would still apply.
Now, as
As
soon
long
as
as
it
the
goes,
governor has a state of emergency.
as soon as it goes away.
This goes away. We don't have to retract it. As soon as
Or we can rescind it.
yeah,
Perfect.
either if the governor ends his state of emergency, it's over that second. If you guys rescind it, it's over that second. But the rescission would have to take place at a board meeting. But you guys, it's not. It's just so nobody gets in trouble.
Make a motion to approve the resolution on granting emergency powers to the superintendent.
Kind of like Star Wars.
I second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Executive session, in accordance to the 25 OS 307B1 and Title 70, Section 5118, enter into executive session for the purpose of discuss the employment of a special education teacher.
Okay, we don't have to go in executive session to do this. If you want to, we can. I would prefer not, because I don't have to mess with that stuff over there, turning it off and turning it back on. But we're hiring one teacher, and it's the last necessary hire. It's special education math. And
So do we need to make any statement in regards to not going into executive?
no, because it's all, you just go on to,
Make a motion.
you just go on to C.
Consider the possible vote on the employment of a special education teacher.
And the motion is in the,
I make a motion to hire Amy Yowzy as special education teacher for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Do we have any new business?
yes, ma'am, and it's pulling up on your screen. It is a resignation of child nutrition worker. It's not it's a retirement.
Retirement.
And I'm going to read it to you because it's a nice letter. It's from Laverne Douglas. And if you've been here a while, you know her. It says, to whom it may concern, effective May 24th, 2020, the end of the 1920 school year, I will be retiring as kitchen manager for Bridge Creek School. I have thoroughly enjoyed my 20 years tenure with the school. I enjoy serving the children who have come through our lines over the last 20 years. I have worked with incredible people, some of whom will be lifelong friends for me. I will miss everyone immensely. Thank you for the great 20 years. Respectfully submitted, Laverne Douglas.
Is that it?
Yep. We need a motion.
Oh, you need to accept the resignation.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Laverne Douglas.
A second.
Mr. Sugg with the first, Mr. Vincent with the second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Spangler?
Yes.
Mr. Dawkins?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mr. Sugg?
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Yes. Okay, we are adjourned at 7:54. Terry, we need to sign that one deal.
Did you print the resolutions off? She's got you and Terry.
Yeah.
I need to get